Welcome to the Joe Moglia podcast, featuring Hall of Fame football coach and world-renowned business leader, Joe Moglia. Let's join the host of the Joe Moglia podcast, Jamie King.
And good morning, everybody. We're welcoming you back to the Joe Moglia podcast. We're so excited to be back with you. Let's bring in the star of the program, the former head coach at Coastal Carolina University, accomplished writer, featured in Forbes magazine, and world-renowned business titan, Joe Moglia. Good morning to you, Coach. How are you?
Jamie, I'm good, thank you. I happen to be at my apartment in New York City, and I'm blessed enough to have a great view of the harbor. And I haven't seen this for a little while, but it's amazing. People aware of how cold it's been in the Northeast, and there are major chunks of ice in the Hudson River and in the harbor. And with that, very few boats wind up going by. And I kind of gave thought to, talking to my family about it the other day. Like when you think what makes like a harbor, I don't really ever think about this, but literally there's always activity in this harbor, always. And there's very little now. And that's because of the ice and because of the cold. So what makes a harbor? I think when you get to the north, it's got to be wide enough. It's got to be deep enough. It's got to be broad enough to be able to handle all sorts of things. In the south, they don't have to worry about the snow. They got to worry about hurricanes. They got to worry about flooding. You got to worry about flooding here. So I never gave much thought to that. But as I look out, see the Statue of Liberty, see the Verrazano Bridge, way out there, you got the Atlantic Ocean. The harbor doesn't shut down, but it really slows down when you've got this type of weather. And that has to have an impact on commerce somewhere. Somewhere that has an impact on some stocks.
Coach, is this business related? I know you're in New York quite a bit, and that's where you're from, but you also have the home in, of course, Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
With the seasons and so forth, being in a warmer climate, or is it business related while you're there most of the time now? Or
it's mixed. I think I still have a large portion of my family here. I got a son here. I've got two daughters here. I've got their families. I've got a brother. I've got cousins. I've got a wonderful set of friends from Merrill Lynch days, as well as media relationships. Right. I've got friends from Fordham University and Fordham Prep, which is right here in the Bronx. So when I come here, there's always an opportunity to wind up seeing old friends, old players, teammates, etc. And I look forward to that. But also when I come in to town, that's also an opportunity to kind of catch up on. I want to doing some media stuff. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do the Maria Bartiromo show. I get some media stuff done, and I wind up catching up on some business meetings that I have. When I leave here today, when we wrap up, I've got a lunch. Later on, I've got a dinner. We're all business related.
I was looking through your Instagram. It's fascinating, all the different places you go, and I've seen your golfing events, and you got a lot of buddies up there you have a lot of fun with. I mean, I see you guys having so much fun, enjoying teammates, former coaches, and so forth. That feeling of home is so special to you. You light up every time you talk about it.
One of the things that I feel that really makes me feel good is that you kind of wonder as time goes on. You believe you're having an impact on others. You believe that, but as time goes on, the reality sort of sets in. And I think for me, literally, I began my coaching career when I was 19 years old. That's 55-ish years ago. Guys I coached then, we still get together every few years now. There's about 10 or 15 of them that we're in regular contact. When I first went to Archmere Academy, the guys at Archmere, the next school, Pencrest, literally just last year, we had a reunion for my Pencrest guys. Last time I coached in that school was 1977. I had 23 guys show up. 23 guys show up, spent the entire weekend. Then I can say the same thing about my Dartmouth guys, that also in the early 80s. And I have no doubt that's going to be the exact same thing for my Coastal Carolina guys. And then you have, those are the guys that I coached. But I certainly have a strong bond with my old friends and classmates and people that I'm close with, having worked with, et cetera. But there's a special bond, I think, between a coach and his players, especially, I think, the way we run our program on BAM. And the proof of that is after all these years, on a regular basis, our guys get together. And I really feel touched and blessed by that.
You are without question one of the highest impact individuals I've ever met in my life. I'm blessed to know you. I was very kindly invited to your Hall of Fame induction, and I talked to people throughout the crowd. You didn't know about it, but I went around and I was just asking about your impact. And then I watched Bam Henderson's speech where he broke down nearly in tears discussing your relationship, African American running back to head coach, and the love he has for you. And when you talk about your friends, you talk about your players. I've talked to players of yours that are going on in the business that said without the things you set in stone for them and gave them that great, start out into the business world or whatever it may in life, those impacts, man, they're not only long lasting, but these guys love you. And when they say, "Man, I got nothing but love for Coach," it's a genuine, heartfelt thing. And so when you sit back at the end of the day, you got to say to yourself, "Man, the impact you have on people is so wide ranging." And it crosses color lines, it crosses everything in terms of you just love people and they in turn love you because you give yourself so much of yourself to everybody you come in contact with, and you make it memorable. And I think that's one of your gifts.
I think it works two ways, though. I think literally from the very beginning, my programs have been built on BAM.
Yeah.
A real man, a real woman, a real leader. That's an acronym for leadership. Stands on their own 2 feet, takes responsibility for themselves, treats others with dignity and respect, and lives with the consequence of action. Now, there's 3 pillars that hold that up. One, spiritual soundness, we've talked about in the past. The other is courage, guts to do what you believe is right. But the third one is love. And we define love as the commitment to well-being of others. So I think a lot of leaders, you see it all the time, where the egos get in the way. Politicians, business executives, some people in the military. It's about them. It's about them. They're the boss. That's it. And they want everybody to know that. They want everybody to know how smart they are, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, it's not about being the boss. A real leader recognizes it's about his people, his or her people that they're responsible for. I have truly always believed that. And I believe that if your people, whether it's Merrill Lynch, Ameritrade, or any one of my teams, really believe they have your best interest at heart, they will follow you anywhere. And that gives you a better advantage other people don't necessarily have.
Yes.
And so for me, that's very much a two-way street. There's a high standard. We work hard to live up to that standard. At the end of the day, my guys know I would do anything in the world for them, and I believe they would do anything in the world for me. I feel just as blessed the other way around. I am a much better person because of those relationships.
That's awesome. Coach, I did want to get into the start of the program, the college athletics and NIL. You wrote a fascinating article, and you've discussed this at length in terms of the NIL world. You mentioned, and this, I sat back and just played this over and over in my head. You mentioned that of the 567,000 college athletes, 2% make 10,000 or more. Now we hear about the big earners, no question about it. But you went on, and you've talked about this from the very beginning about athletes making big dollars. The rest of the college athletes, 535,000, and this I did not know, are getting virtually nothing. So the question to you is, how is this sustainable as a model, and how do you feel, and what should be done to fix this, or can it go in the current state?
I think now that data is back from around 2023.
Right.
And the concept was we have all together, that was all the student athletes in college athletics at the time. And we emphasize, mostly the Power Four, but certainly FBS, the Division I, football, basketball players, et cetera, et cetera. We emphasize those. And whatever the numbers were as far as percentages were in 2023, I'm sure it's more than that today.
Right.
But using that as a relative basis, the point that I was making is that if the NCAA is responsible for student athletes, that's from Division III all the way up through Power Four.
Right.
So there's back then, if there were 2% making 10,000 or more, there were another X percent making something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there were like well over 500,000 student athletes not making a dime. And I never hear about them from the NCAA. They never come up. I don't hear anything about any of those kids, any of those programs, and any of the lower divisions. I don't hear anything about academics.
Right.
So it's without question. We are professionals now. A lot of kids making a lot of money. That's through at the group of 5 level as well as the Power 4 level. Nothing like the Power 4 level. That's real money that they're making. And uh, it has proven itself so far that it's sustainable. Now, it's sustainable because how do you know? Everybody still goes to the games.
Right.
The stadiums are packed. The stadiums are packed. The TV ratings are terrific. So it's still a great product. It's chaos. It's a business, but it's not run like a business. It's not run at all like a business. And I've said many times in the past, the only way to get it to work is you take it one piece at a time, begin with the most money. So powerful football's got to break away and model itself after the NFL. I have said this time and time again. The NFL is a wonderful business model. If the NFL ran themselves like college football is today, the NFL will literally go out of business.
Yes.
So why not acknowledge that we are professionals and run it like a real business? And everything starts to fall into place. You have collective bargaining. You have true transparency. You have real contracts that people have to live up to. You don't have this. You're not going to have chaos, guys running back. You don't have free agents every 6 months of the NFL. So you run it the way it's supposed to. As a business, run it like a business. So eventually, I think that takes place. But so far, the game is still strong and continues to be.
Right.
Just more professional game.
I've said from day one, the two guys, everybody says Nick Saban, as far as like a future commissioner. And I've said your name from day one. I've always said, and the reason I'd place you up here in terms of not only your coaching acumen, but your business acumen, which is to me unparalleled by anybody. The fact that you have been there at the highest levels on these financial deals and could give a different perspective on the business side to give some leveling off of this entire deal. I hope that if you're not the guy, that you're one of the key guys that they would bring in and say, how can we fix this or make this right, from somebody that's done it at the highest level?
I think that, Saban actually would be a good choice for it. I think a guy like Chip Kelly, who's been in the NFL, would be a good choice for it. I think somebody that you don't have to have football knowledge to be good at this. You have to have business knowledge and recognize that your business is sports. Your business specifically would be football, right? So as long as a Saban and a Chip Kelly have that type of experience or expertise and recognize what needs to be done, I think they would be good choices. When this has come up over the last few years, not come up recently, but come up the last few years, would this be something I would do? I've always said yes, but only if I truly was the CEO. I'm running. I'm in
Which
charge.
I think you should be.
We're not going. I'm not going to be running. I'm not going to be running. Various committees, and I'd be in charge, and therefore I'd have real authority to do what I wanted. I think you're aware of this. Prior to Baker taking the NCAA job, they demonstrated a lot of interest in me, and the reason why I wasn't interested is because I think that it's become more of it's a position. It's a position of prestige. It makes pretty good money. It's very visible, but the absolute authority and control from that position relative to what it was, let's say, 10 years ago, it's not even close.
Right.
Nobody should be confused who runs this. The Power 4 football programs, the big money they're the ones that run this.
Right.
The NCAA is not going to take them on.
Well, see, that's the thing. I really think your fairness in business and the fact that you could come at it from a standpoint, the college kids as a coach, the business world as a business leader, combining the two to balance it out to where you can help the college system continue to flourish while giving the kids who you have worked in and mentored, give them something so they can dip their beaks and have something at the end of the day so everybody can, not just a select few. I think that fairness aspect you bring to the table sets you apart, and you come at it from an area of saying, I can make this level for everybody, which is what we need.
Well, that's what you'd work to over time. You wouldn't get that right away, but you worked it over time. You just have to have the authority to be able to do that. And the authority means that we establish rules. And by the way, you listen to, obviously, the respective commissioners and the respective presidents and ADs, and you do all those things. But at the end of the day, you have one job, and that's to do what you believe is the best long-term interest of college football at that level, at the Power 4 level, period. That's it. That's your job. It's not to do what's in the best interest of the Big Ten or LSU. It's do exactly what you believe is the best, and you've got the ability to be able to do that. Really good leaders, when they make good decisions, They never, ever, ever make everybody happy.
Right.
Ever. That you can't do that. It's almost impossible to do that because it's too controversial. Too many people have different perspectives. Excuse me. And it's uh, but from a political perspective, the only way we kind of get things done, and Trump's a little different, but the only way we kind of get things done is we got to get everybody to agree on things. And that's very, very difficult to do. So there's nothing but compromise. Compromise is seldom the best decision. And then there are plenty of business leaders that function a little bit more like politicians.
Right.
And they're not going to go out and risk too much. They're going to make sure they stay in the ship. They kind of keep the ship moving, but they're not going to be, pushing the envelope too much. And I think to do it and do it right, you got to push the envelope, never lie, never cheat, never cross the line, but do everything you can to push it so you maximize what your potential is and what the opportunity is.
You were at the forefront when you said, hey, I can see guys making $1 million. This was when it first came out. They've surpassed that. As a matter of fact, former Cincinnati quarterback Brendan Sorsby leaves Cincinnati, heads to Texas Tech. Cody Campbell, the billionaire owner, of course, spending so much money to field the team and making him really relevant. He gets $5 million for this coming season as a starting quarterback. How, as a former coach, do you approach that as far as the offensive lineman may not be getting a pittance compared to that, in the team to stand behind him and say, it's okay, you make the king's ransom. The other guys may not be getting much of anything. Does that bother you as a coach? And how do you approach that within a locker room setting?
No, I think actually for me, that'd be more of an advantage because of my business background. I think so. I mean, the reality is there are certain levels. Again, it's a business. It's a business. So we're taking typical college. We're going to do this as a team. The team comes first. We're taking those principles. We're carrying them over to the business world. They don't necessarily fly. I mean, there's overlap, but they don't necessarily fly. So there's a value placed on an offensive lineman. And the offensive lineman's job. The offensive lineman's job is to protect the quarterback, open up holes, et cetera, be leaders, all those things. There's a value associated with that. There's a value associated with what the quarterback is able to do. And to find a quarterback with really, really rare skills, that's far more difficult to find than a really good offensive lineman.
Right.
The value of that's why offensive linemen in the NFL get paid more different than what other skill position people do. Right. It's all a matter of what their overall value is. So with regard to college, it'd be the exact same thing. If you want to come play for me as a coach or whomever it might be, and we want you, well, here's the value that we would place on an offensive tackle, a center, a guard. Here's what that's worth to us. Now, if that's not good enough for you, well, you can go someplace else. But if everybody else is trying to make people feel happy, so they're making a lot of money along with the quarterback, well, then they're all making a lot of money, but they're not making the same amount of money. That doesn't work in a real business, in a real capitalist world. At sports, the business of sports is capitalism. And you pay for the value that you're able to provide. And everybody should understand that from the very, very beginning.
So, Coach, basically, from what I'm hearing from, there is no, the words college athletics really isn't so. It's college business now. And that's the way the athletics aspect, it sounds good to say, yeah, I'm a college athlete, but you're almost a college businessman or businesswoman.
The difference is it is college athletics, but it's professional college athletics.
Professional college athletics.
Professional college, which is a business. Yeah. So college athletics still exists, but it's not amateurs.
You just have to look hard to find it. Yeah.
There's not amateurs anymore.
Yeah.
There may be people don't get paid, but it's not amateur college athletics. That doesn't exist today. I don't hear anything at all about the student athlete. I don't hear much about that at all. How many guys who was the quarterback of Miami?
Miami. He didn't go to class for
class for 2 years. Now, I don't even know what that means. Maybe he's doing all. I don't know what that means. But just say that out loud. Just kind of think about that. So the whole point is it's a professional business, but it's being run in some hybrid form of money certainly involved.
Gotcha.
And making believe it's still part of the NCAA.
Okay.
That doesn't work.
I want to get your thoughts as the Olympics are underway. Stanford student and American-born skier Eileen Gu, who excellent. She's earned, I think, close to 20 million in endorsements and so forth. Opted to join the Chinese team. Her mother was born in China. She recently has earned millions in, I guess, from the Republic of China. She recently has some unkind things to say about the president, some comments on a fellow American Olympian. And some people are coming down on her, talking about you want to criticize the American president. Meanwhile, the human rights violations in China we know about, they're not really discussed. Your thoughts on an American born, raised, and trained and everything athlete, then putting on the Chinese uniform and then speaking ill of the American side of things? Where do you come down on that?
I think everybody's got the ability in our country to be able to say what they believe they want to be able to say. Again, if you have a chance to be able to make some money in this country, great. Think about the golf for a minute. How many great golfers that have become quite wealthy here in the United States, playing on the USGA tour, the PGA tour rather, wind up going to live and wind up making more money. So whatever reasons she has, and I don't know her, and I don't understand,
Right.
and I don't know how astute she is in terms of all these things. But if the fact that she's high profile, she has a voice, she's able to say what she thinks she want to say, and my guess is she goes back to China when she was born and raised here. My guess probably finances has something to do with that as well. My guess is she's not going back there for nothing. But I don't know that. Right? So she's doing what she believes in her own best interest, which is the way capitalism happens to work.
Right. So she definitely spoke out. And speaking of the Olympics, have you ever attended any Olympics in person? And if so, what was your favorite Olympic memory?
I think I attended the I think it was the 1988 games in Calgary, and then the 1992 games in Barcelona. And by 1992, I was a pretty senior guy in Merrill Lynch, and so I was more of a host. In 1988, I was just like our top produced bond salesman, and I went more sort of as a reward. So I didn't have responsibilities when I was there.
Right.
Plus, for me, for a guy that kind of grew up and never really had been out of the country and all those things, that was pretty. We were treated really first class, and I remember being enamored by just the opening ceremony, just
Oh,
how
wow.
spectacular it was. Watching it there, watching it live in person. Now, it looks pretty spectacular on TV as well. But I remember that. I remember also my girlfriend at the time that I was with, who was also loved skiing. We went to watch the skiers, and we actually found a place on the side of the hill on the mountain. We were able to sit and kind of watch people go by, but it was cold. We were in the snow, and it got so cold that the skiing was delayed. It was sitting there for like 2 hours, waiting for something to happen. But it was a great event and great experiences, and I value the experience that I and others had in Barcelona as well as what we had in Calgary.
All right. It was Joe Moglia who said the Seahawks, in his words, would win the Super Bowl. He said they got an incredible defense, have succeeded in putting together an effective offense, plus their special teams can be a real difference maker, which I also said with Shaheed Rashid, their great returner. They're very sound across the board. You mentioned this. The Seahawks went on to defeat the Patriots, as you predicted before the game. Wasn't much of a game. It was a very hard-fought defensive effort by Seattle. What did you think overall about the game itself?
Well, I think that's interesting because many people I remember, just texting, while the game's going on, and people say, "Boy, this is the most boring game I've ever watched," and I'm sure it's going to go down as one of the more boring games in the history of the Super Bowl. But for coaches like you and I, or I'm sure guys like Saban and things watching the game, I thought these were two really outstanding defensive games.
Yes,
really good defensive games.
Yes.
And if you kind of watch what both of the teams were doing in terms of the ability to try to disguise the coverage, the ability to be able just to move to the ball, the physicality of it, the gang tackling, really some brilliant defensive strategy on both sides of the ball. After a while, by the time you got to the fourth quarter, the game was pretty much out of hand by then. Now, I think, in fairness for New England, as great a year as May had, He's still 23 years old, and he's playing in the biggest scene in the history of mankind. Did that get to him a little bit? Well, he didn't seem particularly sharp. Now, he was playing against a great defense. They went after him with a great defensive game plan. But he was not what he needed to be to make the game competitive. Seattle was incredibly dominant, and I thought it was a great game. I mean, I really thought it was a great game.
Yeah, I think you and I were watching that upfront battle. You had 3 or 4 guys defensively getting home regularly.
Regularly, yeah.
We had 3 or 4 guys getting home with regularity, and when they were doing that, and that gave the secondary an opportunity to cover a little longer, and as you said, cause problems. Drake May said he had a shot in his arm. His arm had been bothering him. He said this after the game. He had a shot. Said it, didn't have much effect, but he didn't look sharp at all. I did want to ask you, do you think the Seahawks have a model that can really sustain and they'll be in the mix here for the next couple of years? Do you think this is a one and done? This Mike McDonald, 38 years of age, did an amazing job with this team.
Well, I don't know why it was not sustainable. They've got good coaching staff down. They may lose some key coaches to maybe bigger jobs. I doubt McDonald's going anyplace else. And their players, it's all going to be, everybody's got the same salary cap, the same concept behind the salary cap. They put together a really good team. They put together a good staff. They know what they're doing. I don't know why they can't be a significant power for years to come. I don't know why they can't be, the team for the next few years, just like Kansas City was for a while. And you go back, New England was prior to that. There's no reason why Seattle can't be the next Kansas City / New England.
Okay. The halftime show drew a lot of praise, a lot of criticism. Did you happen to watch Bad Bunny? I think, Coach, anything past 1980 I don't know much about, but your thoughts on Bad Bunny? Did you hang in there and watch it, or your thoughts?
Yeah, it was on, but I was kind of doing other things. I was catching up with some other things then. And but during the first half, when they talked about, at halftime, wait till we see like Bad Bunny. Okay, first of all, I thought they were saying Mad Money, which is the Jim Cramer show on CNBC.
So you thought Jim Cramer was going to start dancing at halftime?
I knew that wasn't the case, but I think, I wonder if there's infringement there. Like there's an entertainer that's got, a Mad Money as thing. Then I thought it's Bad Money. I didn't realize it was Bad Bunny until Bad Bunny up on the screen. Bad Bunny, obviously he's got a pretty cool following, but I'm probably not going to be one of the people who go to one of his concerts.
I love listening to Spanish music and dancing and all that. Not understanding anything for an American setting like that, and you thought it would have been some American song linked in there somewhere. It was straight Spanish across the board, which is great for the Latin communities that watched. Very successful, but that's some of the complaints I heard some people that I wish we could have understood more.
You go back to what we said before. You're never going to have a decision that everybody's going to be happy with, right? So everybody can complain, no matter what it is. You want to complain, you can complain, right? So if it was all American case, somebody could say, well, you know what? There should have been more of a Spanish perspective with growth. To me, I thought the show was good entertainment. It was good. I had no problem with being Spanish. I thought all that stuff was cool. I'm just not a fan necessarily of that type of music.
Got it.
I love international music. I love Italian. I love French. I love Spanish stuff, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not necessarily a Bad Bunny devotee.
He's not in your pipe.
He's not on my top list. He's not on my bucket list.
Okay. We're going to go to the financial section. And, Coach, you were talking about in one article about being a good year for crypto. You hope it's going to be. You've aggressively bought Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. Of course, your thoughts. You've been an aggressive buyer of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, and the weaknesses there, the strengths there. Where are you now on crypto? I know that's one of your key market strategies. What advice do you have, and what are your thoughts currently?
I think it's important to understand that those of us that have grown up in the traditional finance world need to recognize, go back to the early 90s when the internet happened. The internet literally did change the world. AI is changing, it's already starting to change the world.
Yes.
But 5 years from now, because of stable coins, because of tokenization, because of crypto rails, because of blockchain, because of AI, because of all those things, the entire financial world is probably going to wind up being tokenized. Now, it's tokenized. If you think traditional finance, you think there's actually some sort of thing that's sort of like a token. No, it's all software. So tokenization is taking the assets and they turn them into code, turn them into turn them. It's all technology. It's all it is.
Right.
So a digital asset treasury, it's got nothing to do with the treasury market.
Right.
It's just the way you run your digital asset book, the crypto book. So if you recognize that that's the future, the crypto rails, the gas in effect that makes that work is the crypto. You've got the Bitcoin very, very much as a store of value long term. That the president wants us to have, be kind of the global reserve for that. At some point, central banks around the world might want to do the same thing. We'll see what happens there. You've got Ethereum and Solana that are going to be the two. They're not currencies, but the two cryptos that will make all this work, and that's all technology as well.
Right.
So the size of this market from where it is today is so expansive, it's so large. I mean, it's almost infinite that from where it could go today, only got to grow. Now, people that are really, really smart, that have been following us for 10 years, they're really experts, really, really, truly believe that. I believe that. I believe that, partly because I believe them, but I've been looking at this for about 10 years. The last 3 months now, crypto has gotten crushed. So I've been saying this all along. So everything I've bought in the last 3 months is down. So I've taken a very, very big hit. Now I own too much crypto. But if it's going to continue to go down, I'll probably still buy it, but I'm literally run out of money here.
Okay.
And, but for others that haven't really gotten involved with it now, I think now would be a great time to get involved in the market and buy. And I would be a buyer of Bitcoin, I'd be a buyer of Ethereum, and I'd be a buyer of Solana.
Okay. I did want to mention you talked about the S&P getting to around 7,600. The market will continue to be strong on AI. You've talked about that. I did want to get your thoughts that Kevin Warsh has been appointed the new Fed chair. Your thoughts on how it will affect the marketplace and your thoughts with working with Trump. He seems to be in favor of it. Do you think this is going to be a pro-cut market, or where are you coming down on that?
No, I don't know Kevin Warsh. I do know people that know him, though. And the people that know him, I have a lot of respect for, and they have a lot of respect for him. That he's a really smart guy. He knows what's going on. He got an excellent background that will frankly make him a great Fed chairman. We know that of the 4 candidates, no one was going to get this job if they were going to be aligned with the president. Not because that's what the president wanted, but because that's what they believed. And I think looking down the road, what I believe, and there are a few people out there that think this, the market is saying we're going to have a couple of cuts. I think we're going to have a lot more than those. Maybe not right now, but let's say between now and the end of the year, or from, let's say, May or June to the end of the year. And I think here's what's going to happen. Warsh, I think, recognizes the impact of AI, and that has not yet really started to kick in terms of productivity. We've not yet really started to see those productivity gains yet. We're just at the beginning of that. So as we start to see that, we're going to see a much more effective, efficient economy. We're going to grow at a faster rate than what we've ever had, going back to maybe the 70s with Reagan. I think that will also, that productivity will help keep inflation in hand. Mm-hmm. So those reasons gives him a real cushion where he can really, truly lower rates, make the president very happy, do the right thing by doing that. But he's already said that the balance sheet we have by the Fed is too big, $7 trillion, way too big. So we've been doing quantitative easing, which means we're making sure there's plenty of liquidity in the system. Well, we're not going to continue to do that. So as we back off on that, we can kind of control through not using quantitative easing, not necessarily quantitative tightening, right, but not using quantitative easing. So kind of control that part of it while we're lowering rates in an environment where it's more productive than we've ever been because of AI and being able to keep inflation in check. I think that's where he's going. I think that's where his head is. And I think, again, to me, that's all very, very bullish.
We're on the financial page of the Joe Moglia podcast, and you've been mentioning different things happening within the stock market. Software as a service stocks, you've been talking about getting hit very hard. Your thoughts there?
Software service stock, AI, so many things that we've been able to do, AI is going to be able to do.
Okay.
So many things that software services has done very, very well with can significantly be disrupted by what we have going on in AI. There's many, many fields. They're the ones that are getting hit. Now, within those fields, that doesn't mean, Wall Street got a tremendous ability to adapt and adjust, that some of those businesses are not going to wind up adjusting, changing, and thriving. But we don't know I don't know who they are yet. We don't know who they are. Okay. So of the ones that are there, some are going to survive, but they're not going to look the way they've looked in the past. But the concern is AI is going to disrupt those industries, and I can appreciate that that's going to happen.
And you said the Mag 7 is holding their own with 2 exceptions. Could you go into that briefly?
Yeah, I think it's Microsoft, and is it Amazon? I would have to go back and double check. The Mag 7 has been holding their own, but everybody's annoyed because they don't like the amount of CapEx spending they've been doing. I think it's Microsoft and Amazon. I'll come back to you and send you.
Okay.
That they're really mad at because they're spending that much more than the other.
Right.
Everybody's mad that you're spending too much money on CapEx. I'm going to put my money with the leaders of the Mag 7, that they know more than what everybody else does. And they're doing what they're doing because they know this is the future, and they've got to do this to be able to stay ahead and stay competitive.
And you still maintain being bullish on Kathy Wood in the ARC program. You're still okay. Yeah. Coach, as we close out this week's edition of the Joe Moglia podcast, sometimes you give us advice on football, family, finance. What do you have for us this week?
Yeah, I think, Jamie, one of the things that it doesn't happen all the time, but we've got the Olympics going on. Yep. And I think they are such beautiful events, and they are the one time, and there's still some politics going on, of course, where the world comes together to be able to compete on a global stage. And I think it is something that we should appreciate. In an environment with geopolitical stress is as high as it's ever been. Well, we got tensions with China, we got tensions going on with Iran, all sorts of things going on. We don't even talk about the Russia-Ukraine thing anymore. We got so much stress every place. But I think it's a good time the next couple of weeks to really feel fortunate and enjoy the Olympics. And of course, we got to root for the United States.
USA, USA. Hey, Coach, thanks again. Remember, folks, to never miss a Joe Moglia podcast. Catch all of Joe's appearances on CNBC. He's got one coming up tomorrow with Maria Bartiromo, and read all of his great articles in Forbes magazine. We also ask you to visit a one-of-a-kind website for all things Joe Moglia. It's moglia.com. That's MOGLIA.com for interviews, photos, speaking engagements, appearances, and so much more. Coach, thank you again. Have a great week ahead, and good luck with Maria there tomorrow.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it, pal.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Joe Moglia podcast. Reminding you to learn more about Joe by going to the sensational Joe Moglia website at moglia.com. That's moglia.com. That's MOGLIA.com. When you visit the website, you'll be able to learn more about Joe's schedule of appearances on CNBC as well as other speaking and television appearances. You can also read all of Joe's incredible articles featured in Forbes magazine. For Hall of Fame coach Joe Moglia, producer-director Rob Matea, and Joe Moglia podcast host Jamie King.